People want rolling living rooms and what's being done to crack down on a new driving distraction on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
It's an unlikely combination. A Japanese teacher and a Canadian Holocaust survivor brought together by, of all things, a suitcase. It links them to a girl, one whose legacy they worked to keep alive long after her life was cut short. CBS's Gretchen Carlson has their story.
My hero, George.
What Fumiko Ishioka and George Brady have in common is not immediately obvious. But the Japanese woman and the Canadian Holocaust survivor are like family now, brought together by the story they carry in this suitcase.
Here it says she was born in 1931.
The suitcase belonged to a young girl, Hannah Brady, George Brady's little sister.
She loved sports. She was a skier, skater.
In the 1930s, Hannah and George lived in Czechoslovakia until Hitler took over the country. Because they were Jewish, Hannah and George were sent to concentration camps. And while George somehow survived, Hannah was gassed to death at Auschwitz when she was just 13.
I felt responsible for her, and I just couldn't bring her home.
While George Brady eventually moved to Canada to start a new life, Ishioka was teaching Japanese children about the Holocaust. When she went looking for artifacts, a Holocaust museum sent her this suitcase with Hannah's name on it.
It's very important for kids especially to learn an event like the Holocaust.
Ishioka began to search and discovered a document showing Hannah had died, but her brother had survived. She located George, who sent photos of Hannah.
It's the story, first and foremost, of Hannah Brady.
So now Ishioka and Brady travel the world with journalist Karen Levine, who made their story into a book.
We're the last generation to know people from the Holocaust, and if nobody continues to learn about that, they just let that fade away, this could happen all over again.
So your number is
I'm
what?
number B, 11,498.
For George Brady, the memories are always present and bittersweet.
I can imagine that this brings you great pain and great joy at the same time.
Well, I try not to, but sometimes you just hit a spot where you just can't help it. Yeah.
Ironically, Brady recently found out the suitcase never belonged to Hannah. The museum sent a replica because the original was destroyed. But the story that came from the suitcase remains the same, and now has a life of its own. Gretchen Carlson, CBS News, New York.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Sunday. Later on CBS 60 Minutes, the French attorney who's defending Saddam Hussein. I'm John Roberts in New York. Thanks for choosing CBS News. Have a good night.
For news 24 hours a day, click on cbsnews.com. Brought to you in part by Walmart, where you can find everything you and your family need at everyday low prices. Walmart, always low prices, always. Experience CBS News.
Tomorrow morning. At this point, 3 tied for the lead at 7 under, including Vijay Singh, who still has 6 holes to play in his 3rd round. And that's Look at Sports. I'm Guy Rawlings. Michael, back to you.
Guy, thank you. And that is the NBC 6 News at 6. Now stay tuned for the NBC Nightly News. We'll see you back here at 11. Have a great evening.
War in Iraq, Sniper Alley. Tension grows as the pressure for action builds in Najaf and Fallujah. March on Washington. Hundreds of thousands turn out in the nation's capital to rally for abortion rights. devastation revealed at last as the tragedy of a North Korean train wreck continues to unfold. In-depth inflation fever, families feeling the heat after a jump in the cost of living. And on track with the youngest Derby trainer ever, a woman in the race for the roses.
Horses have been my whole life and always will be.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with John Siegenthaler.
Good evening, everyone. It's been another violent weekend in Iraq with another American soldier killed in the fighting. And while U.S. troops continue the battle against Iraqi insurgents and foreign fighters, the White House could soon be facing a decision about the next phase of the military operation, watching and waiting on whether to launch an assault in two major cities, Najaf and Fallujah. NBC's Richard Engel is in Baghdad.
U.S. Marines in Fallujah. Their target, a sniper. They fire hundreds of rounds, but with little effect. So out goes a team with a heavier weapon, a shoulder-launched rocket, crossing what the Marines call Sniper Alley. True to its name, they're shot at. They launch the rocket, but the sniper escapes. Despite daily scenes like this, the military still holds out hope for diplomacy and said today Marines will soon carry out joint patrols with Iraqi police in Fallujah.
But any time a commander has the option of achieving his mission without having soldiers cross the line of departure and go in harm's way, why not give it a chance?
But on Iraq's other main battlefront, Najaf, signs the U.S. may be taking its chances. A U.S. general saying today the 2,500 troops ringing Najaf would soon enter sections of the holy Shiite city to dismantle militias. But he said troops would not go into the city's center, built around the holiest shrine for the majority of Iraq's population. The U.S. knows Najaf is sensitive, and U.S. officials say the militiamen are taking advantage of it.
We know from Iraqis that weapons are being stockpiled in mosques and in shrines and in schools. It's a potentially explosive situation.
So explosive, in fact, that Iraqis warned tonight any move on Najaf, even into modern parts of the city, could escalate violence tremendously all across Iraq. Meanwhile, the guerrilla campaign continues to take lives. A third American sailor today died after being wounded in yesterday's attack on an oil rig off Iraq's southern coast. In Baghdad, another soldier killed, another wounded, another roadside bomb. And after this Humvee was torched, 4 Iraqi children were killed in an ensuing gun battle. Richard Engel, NBC News, Baghdad.
So what is the next step for the U.S. military force in Iraq? Will there be a new operation in Najaf and Fallujah? NBC's Rosalind Jordan joins us from the White House tonight with that story. Good evening, Roz.
Good evening, John. The White House is not confirming reports the president discussed the situation in Fallujah and Najaf with his senior aides this weekend. Meantime, observers say the administration's challenge is balancing diplomacy with security in Iraq. With the White House reportedly weighing its options in Fallujah, the question this week for the administration, how to put down the insurgency without jeopardizing what officials insist is their main goal, turning sovereignty over to the Iraqis on June 30th.
The major risk is that if, in fact, they go into these cities and go into them heavy, that they will essentially inspire a nationwide rebellion.
The UN Special Envoy to Iraq said he'd much prefer coalition forces hold their fire, not just in Fallujah, but also in the holy city of Najaf, where Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr has taken refuge.
Sending the tanks rolling into a place like this is not the right thing to do, and I think the Americans know that extremely well now.
But one senator said current attempts to convince Sadr's followers to give up their guns